Okay folks, many times whenever I do a review, I like to separate the features of a particular firearm, especially if it's a brand new one to the market, as things that I need, things that I pretty much expect, and things that I don't need, but I'm glad that I have. It might be nice features. I gotta tell you, this Hellcat has a lot of both. Let's get right into it. Now, for the sake of full disclosure, I wanna say this real quick. Springfield Armory was kind enough to send this to me. First of all, you know, there's this massive fight out there for concealed carry handguns to fit as many from a round count standpoint into this thing as possible. You know, it kind of started, Glock really has kind of fallen behind on it. 6 Hour really started it with the P365 whenever they re-engineered that magazine to put more rounds into it. Well, of course, Glock saw that, and rather than re-engineering the magazine, they just made it longer in the 43X so you could put more rounds in it. That's all right, that's cool. Even though that's the hardest part to conceal is the actual grip. But nevertheless, that's actually what I was wearing today, by the way. So no offense to the Glock 43X guys. But the thing that really hurts Glock is the fact that they have a polymer magazine with that metal insert inside of it. So they've essentially got kind of like two magazines in one, you know, and they need the metal inside of it because it's giving it that strength that it needs to function properly, not get bent and all that good stuff, not get broken. Well, Springfield Armory with the Hellcat, they have taken it one step farther than what 6 Hour did with the P365. What do I mean by one step farther? They actually have more rounds in it. This flush fit magazine that they include is an 11+1. This thing holds 11 rounds in it. All right, we remember what the SIG holds. Of course, we know what the Glock holds. They also send you a magazine that has an extension on it, and it is a capacity extender as well, and it's going to hold 13+1. So you've got a 12 total capacity here with the flush fit, and with the other magazine with the extension on, the grip extension, now you've got 14 total in capacity. Now you do have this small little pinky extender that you can put on your flush fit magazine if you feel like that additional little bit of rest that you might get with your pinky finger is necessary. Personally, I don't. I'm a firm believer that anything that sticks out farther than my actual pistol is simply making it harder for me to conceal. So having this, I don't feel like I gain much by putting that pinky extension on there because it does slightly, if ever so slightly, take away from my concealability. That's my ultimate goal. My ultimate goal when choosing and carrying a concealed firearm is that I want it to be as concealable as possible with the most rounds in it. But there's many other things on this pistol that I feel like are things that I need to have. First of all, let me talk about the serrations. A lot of times we talk about serrations and we talk about the slide serrations in the front and in the back, and we talk about how they may not be as necessary as in some cases. Now we've got a red dot sight on here, so that changes the complexion of what our intentions are on this particular pistol a little bit. Those side serrations are giving me a little bit of a grip in the front if I need it, because now if I were to normally grab my pistol on top of it and charge it, now I've got a red dot in the way. Now you can use the red dot. It's mounted inside this cut perfectly. This is the OSP version, by the way, that's milled out for this particular red dot. They have a non-milled out version that you can check Ava Flanell's channel. She's actually reviewing the one that does not have the OSP cutout on it to give you an idea of what that sleeker, more concealable model is going to look like straight out the box. But this one here is pretty cool with the fact that we have those slide serrations on here. I can grip this thing in the back or in the front if I want to, and I'm not running the risk of my hand slipping off. Now, one of the things that I noticed that was kind of cool about the non-OSP version, and again I refer you to Ava Flanell's video, is the fact that it's serrated on top also, on top of the slide. I think that's a little bit important. I don't have that in my hand obviously to show you, but I think that's also important to give you a little bit more grip, especially if you have smaller hands. With a larger hand like mine, the top of my hand is not really touching the top of the slide, but with a smaller set of hands and you're charging that, you're more than likely going to be pressing on top of that. That little bit extra grip, if you're sweaty, your hands are wet, if you're wearing gloves, if you're nervous, all of that's going to make a difference. So I do feel like those serrations on top are very important. Looks like it's just for looks, but it's not. In many cases, I see those as functional serrations. Another thing I like about this pistol is the undercut on the trigger guard. You got to have that. In a pistol this size, a much smaller pistol, you've got a lot less mass. You have much more opportunity for more, I don't want to say violent recoil because it's a 9mm, but a little bit harsher recoil, a little bit less forgiving recoil. by getting you a little bit further up, closer to that bore axis, that's going to allow you to tame that recoil a whole lot quicker. And in my opinion, it's going to give you a more confident grip. Again, the whole point of that pinky extension, I talk about this all the time, it really doesn't get you a whole lot. It's more mental than anything. You feel like you've got a better grip. Well, if you're higher up on the grip, your hand is on more of this concealable pistol. And I stress the concealable because that's the whole reason why we don't have all this down here. So you're going to have more confidence in firing that gun. Plus, you will be physically taming that recoil impulse a little bit better. Now, what's another thing that I have to have? This is a have to have and a glad I have. These sights are unbelievable. I can probably see me removing this red dot optic and carrying this thing to make it a little bit more concealable just with the sights. These are incredible tritium sights. I love the little insert. I love how visible that front sight is. Again, any of you that know shooting fundamentals, you're always trying to locate that front sight. That's the first thing your eyes should go to when firing upon something. This demands that your eyes go to it. And then that U-cut in the back allows you to rest that optic, that front sight right inside there. Another thing that I find that it does, see, a lot of people aim a pistol wrong. They think that the post that you have on the front of some pistols has to rest on top of your rear sights in your sight picture. This allows you to learn a little bit more about the aiming fundamentals in a gun because it's natural to see that you have to rest that front circle of that front sight right down into that half U, into that half circle on the back. So to me, it's almost like a how-to as far as aiming. Very cool sights on this thing. I really like these sights. I got to tell you, that was the first thing that jumped out at me whenever I saw this. The finish is awesome, nitride finish. They did a really good job. The stippling to me is perfect for what I need it for. I don't see where I would make it any more aggressive. It seems like it's got the same type of stippling all the way around it. I do like how they actually stipple, I call it a stirrup. It's the front part of the side of the frame where you would rest your support hand's thumb on it. That's very important. To me, again, going back to fundamentals of shooting, you want both thumbs pointing forward. That's going to give you a more positive, a more consistent shot, and your shots are going to land more on target by having both of those thumbs going forward. What this pistol does is it actually shows you this is where you put your thumb. It's telling you your thumb goes here. Thumb goes here. But that also is going to allow you to stabilize that pistol more forward. Instead of wrapping that thumb or wasting that thumb further back on the pistol, you're able to push that left thumb, in my case, my left thumb, much farther forward, and you're actually stabilizing the front part of that frame to, again, tame that recoil. Now, what else do I like about this pistol as far as making sure that you tame your fundamentals properly? This little spot on the side of the frame may look like it's for show, and it may seem like it has no purpose, and the engineers at Springfield Armory may be telling me that I'm stupid and don't know what I'm looking at because that's not why they intended it. Maybe they intended it for show only. I don't see that. I noticed the first time that I grabbed this Hellcat that by having it raised behind the release, if you notice the release is flush with the side of the gun, and of course the front of it is what protrudes out of there. Well, as small as this pistol is, your thumb is going to be pressing on the front of it. What you don't want to have happen is some of these guns are manufactured out there and they have that release that protrudes all the way around on the button. And what happens is you inadvertently hit that thing when you're shooting. God forbid it's a stressful situation and you drop your magazine. What this is doing is the back portion of it is protecting that button, but it makes the whole button still accessible. So you can still press down on it. And of course in the front it protrudes out perfectly. Not only is that cool to protect you from dropping that magazine inadvertently, but also it tells you where that main thumb is supposed to go. Your support thumb, like I said, already goes up front in the stirrup, so to speak, is what I call it. I'm sure they have a fancy name for it, but I call it the stirrup because that's where your that's where your thumb goes. But your main thumb, your actual strong thumb, is guided down along that part where you have some stippling right there. And guess what it's doing? It's pointing your strong thumb forward. So this gun, this pistol, is showing you, okay, your strong thumb, it goes right here and it points forward, and your support thumb goes right here and it points forward. Again, this thing is funneling you down to make you fundamentally shoot this thing the correct way. What that's going to do, guys, is that's going to help you to shoot any other gun the correct way too if you're training with this one. Now, let's talk about the things that it doesn't have to provide, but I'm glad they did. Flat trigger. Big fan of flat triggers. I feel like flat triggers give me a lot more consistency because my finger's not rolling around inside that curve of some curved triggers. I like the way they matched the frame and the slide. I know sometimes that's nitpicking, but I think it's very important that you make this thing as easy to reholster as safely as possible. And I think that these cuts on the slide and the frame, they look good, but they also are functional because they're going to funnel that gun into your holster. Again, Springfield Armory is nice enough to provide this crossbreed holster that I've never worn a crossbreed holster, and I've been wearing this one all day long. And I got to tell you, these two pieces go together really, really well. I love the holstering effect, again, of that taper on the front. Now, I mentioned the serrations on the front earlier. Guys, those of you that watch my stuff know how OCD I am. I'm very, very OCD. I need things lined up. I complain about people not taking the time and not hiring enough OCD people, engineers on your staff, to line these serrations up. Guess what Springfield did? They lined the serrations up. Thank you, Springfield. If you look, let me get the longer magazine so you can see. That's easier for me to show you. If you look at the line right here of the magazine, you're going to notice that the angle is exactly the same as the angle on your serrations. Guys, come on. That's such a simple thing to do. Get it right. Of course, the main question is, how does it shoot? Guys, I have not put one round through this entire thing, so this is going to be a lesson in functionality as you see it, as I film it, because I, again, have not just got this thing in earlier today. I'm going to run my arm score ammunition, 124 grain full metal jacket. Arm score, to me, is the most consistent practice ammo that I can put my hands on. I love these guys, and I really appreciate their support big time. I can't do what I do out here without arm score. Okay, guys, I got my PT target by action target out here at about 20 yards. That's the distance that I typically try to utilize my self-defense concealed carry pistols at, and then bring that target in because I'm typically not engaging anything much farther than that. I'm going to utilize my 11+1 magazine first on this Hellcat. Boy, it slides in there good. Talk about locks in nice and positive. Look at that. I mean, no jamming of it in there or anything. That's nice. First shots with this thing, guys. Never fired this thing yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the iron sights first. I'm going to use the post and the U in the back simply because I can co-witness. So it's nice to be able to have those both. So I'm going to use it as if I don't have that red dot optic. I like this. I like the way it feels. Yeah, it's snappy. It's kind of hard. It's a little difficult not using the red dot because it's right there in my face as I'm aiming with my front post. But as you can see, it shots on target. Friends, I got to tell you, this Springfield Armory Hellcat, it's a sweet little concealed carry pistol. You know, just when you thought 6 Hour raised the bar, Glock doesn't really need to raise much of a bar because they own so much of the market share. But you have companies like SIG and, of course, Springfield who are competing with those guys, especially in this type of market. And SIG really, really raised the bar with that P365. This just made it even higher. At this point, you're only going to be able to get so many rounds in this size of a pistol. But Springfield Armory managed to squeeze a round or two in more than what that P365 did. To me, that was a heck of a feat because I thought that was pretty amazing what the P365 did. This is a cool little pistol. I love the way it handles. It's very, very concealable. Again, if you keep that extended magazine off, you're still going to wind up with 12 rounds total in your pistol. That's great, great round count for a concealable pistol, especially one of this size. It does have a true round indicator inside here. What I like about that is some of the Walther type round indicators on the back simply show that a pistol is cocked, where this one is actually going to show you whenever it's empty or when you have a round that's actually in the chamber. You're going to see that brass glowing through that hole. I like that. I don't like the false sense of security that you get with some of those cocking indicators, because sometimes you're thinking you've got a round in there and you don't. I think from a concealed carry standpoint, it's important that you know without a doubt that you absolutely do. So if you can put your eyes visually on that round in the chamber, you know that you're good to go. This pistol is nice, guys. I ran it out here. I ran about 240 rounds total through it. Not one single malfunction. The thing operated perfectly. The optic on here is by a company called Shield. From what I've read, it's a UK-based company, and mine was actually packed by Karen. Karen packed mine. Karen inspected mine. But it's a great little optic. I love the fact that they don't have the sides over here. That's going to give it a little bit more lightness. You know, these optics get put through a lot whenever they're on a semi-automatic pistol like this. It's not like one that you might put on an AR-15 or even a shotgun in some cases, because this thing is moving frontwards and backwards with the cycling of the slide. That is a ton of G-forces being put on this thing forward, backwards, and just slamming against itself. And if these things can hold zero and hold up, we might have found a new optic company in Shield, because this thing so far held zero out here today, and I had zero problems with this thing whatsoever. So yeah, very cool addition that they did on here. Again, I like the crossbreed holster that Springfield Armory sent with this. This is a nice setup. I'm not sure what the package is going to include on the retail market out there. I haven't seen that yet. But you can start calling your local gun shops now, because you're going to be able to pick this thing up very, very soon. All in all, the Hellcat is a very nice pistol. Very satisfied with this thing. I can't wait to carry it. And actually, as a tribute to the late, great Eddie Money, who recently passed away, this thing is screaming, "Take me home tonight." I'm going to do just that.